Here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts. Ever wonder what bridges the gap between your favorite film genres, subgenres, and movements? CinemaScope is here to explore these connections, taking you on a thrilling odyssey through the ever-evolving art of cinema. I'm your host, Andy Nelson, and in each episode, we embark on a deep dive into the forces that sculpt the world of film. From the styles you know and love, like heist films or the French New Wave, to the ones you may not be as familiar with, like Turkish Yeşilçam or Brazilian Nordwesterns, my expert guests and I unravel the complex tapestry of storytelling, style, and innovation that defines the world of film as we unpack the myriad catalysts of change that shape these diverse styles. Whether you're a student of film, a creative professional, or simply a devoted movie enthusiast, CinemaScope is your gateway to a richer, more immersive film experience. Don't just watch movies, understand them, appreciate them, and revel in their artistry with CinemaScope. Subscribe today.
Hooked on you, baby, you're golden. Time moves, I never noticed, just can't get enough. Got me wonderstruck.
Hello and welcome everybody to Make Me a Nerd. I'm Mandy Kaplan, and it is my mission to explore the world of nerdery that I have so long resisted or been left out of. I am excited to, at this late stage in my life, try to jump into a whole bunch of stuff I haven't done, and that includes sci-fi, fantasy, superheroes, oh my. I have been loving this journey, frankly, and trying a bunch of new stuff. Some of it I'm liking and getting a little nerdier about. Some of it not so much, but I think that's all okay. It's part of trying new things. We can't love everything. I can't do this alone. I mean, I could, but how boring would that be? So I'm so lucky to have a bunch of really talented, smart, fun, generous people in my life who want to share the things they're passionate about and see if they can't make me a nerd. It's the title, get it? So I have invited somebody today who is a natural. He is a podcast host, performer, a longtime friend. I met him 30 years ago, almost, which makes me want to barf. Pete, let's edit out 30 and say 3 back in our 20s. Let's just do that. He's going to tell you what he does, but he's the host of Comic News Insider, and he's an expert in this world and very passionate about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Aquino. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Oh my gosh. I really appreciate being a part of it. I was so excited when I saw that you started this. I was like, awesome. Because we kind of, I don't know, I want to take credit that we gave you the idea 15 years ago. We used to have a segment on the show called Converting to Comicdom, where we give people comics to read. And you and Mandy, your friend, had an exciting adventure at a comic shop. You read comics, you liked some, you didn't like some. It was great.
Now, I didn't realize, because I only see things as to how they pertain to me. I remember doing that vividly. We've tried this experiment before, but I didn't realize it was a segment of your existing show where you were trying to convert.
It wasn't a regular one. We do it on occasion. Yeah, we do it on occasion.
Okay.
So I'm not suing, is what I'm saying. I'm not suing, so it's fine.
Not yet.
No, well, we'll see. Yeah,
we're just beginning this little adventure together.
Yes.
So we met. Tell the world how we met.
So yeah, she said we met back in New York through our mutual friend Carrie Garbus. And if I remember correctly, that has been a while. We met. I don't know where it was, but I feel like we quickly fell in love, started dating. You moved in, got married, we had kids, and then you left, and I haven't seen you till now. So what's up?
This has turned into like a Jiminy Glick, Melissa McCarthy thing, which is fantastic.
Oh my God. That was both funny and uncomfortable.
Little Timmy misses you.
Oh,
you could call him once in a while.
Well, he's understandable.
Yeah, we used to run around New York City together.
Yeah,
with our friends, and then I moved out to LA.
Sometimes crossword together, with crossword nerds.
You're much better at it than I.
Oh, I don't know. I may have relayed this story before, but Mandy was so funny. One time we were at dinner with some friends, and she would start saying these little things. I was like, are those clues from today's New York Times crossword? You're like, yeah, I like to sneak them in conversations to get the answer. I don't know.
Right.
I'm like, that's great. I love that.
Yeah, like, let's talk about citrus fruits, everybody. And what if one of them had 8 letters? What would that be? Yeah, just
so great. I loved it.
Well, since I've known you, I've known that you are a deep lover of comic books and
Yeah.
superheroes. But could you expand on your love of all
Sure.
things nerd? What else are you into?
So yeah, I think we all grew up reading comic strips in the newspaper, right? Charlie Brown and Blondie and all these other ones. And that led to getting comic books. So I think my first ones were like Richie Rich and Archie, those little digests. And then we go to this local bookstore that had like the 10-cent bin where like mom would give you $1. Like, I get 10 comics, and like just buy what you could. And, cartoons I was into as a young age, like Batman became a fave. I have a tattoo of Batman. And, watch after school, we'd all run home to watch the like Transformers and G.I. Joe and Voltron. And I got into sci-fi. I distinctly remember like waking up at 7 a.m. because where I'm from, we had the sixth grade center. Like there wasn't a middle school for some reason. And it started
That's
at
so
9.
strange.
So yeah, it was weird. I think it changed years later where they finally made it a 6th through 8th grade thing.
Uh-huh.
Because we had a 6th grade center, a junior high, and a senior high. That eventually changed to the rest of the country, Florida, and explains a lot. But I would get up at 7 a.m. to watch Speed Racer, which I loved, which was like a Japanese anime, And even though school didn't start till 9, I knew I usually get up to like 8 o'clock, but that's how much I loved it. And then PBS would show reruns of Star Trek, and I really got into that.
Oh.
And I remember like I don't know why in geometry class that I would. One time I just started like the top of my paper we'd handed every day, star date, whatever it was. Today's, Captain's Law. We learned about the Pythagorean theorem. And like after a couple of days, my teacher was like, "I love Star Trek. You love Star Trek?" So I kept doing it.
Cool.
I think it would give me like a little extra credit or something. It didn't. But
How'd that work out? Yeah.
Yeah, not very well. But I'm still taking the class. And
the ED, it's right there within your reach.
It's so close, so close. I can only figure out what A squared plus B squared equals. I never got that. But yeah, then I just Star Wars happened, and I fell hard for Star Wars, and just any other, it just blossomed from there. And I just kept reading comics, and I still do, and love it.
It's so funny because your childhood things that you were watching were so different. I raced home to watch the Match Game.
I mean, I probably watched that. Yeah.
And Brady Bunch reruns and Santa Barbara started.
Yeah. Oh,
I was very into Santa Barbara, the soap opera. So I was not watching Speed Racer or Transformers or any of that. And that explains how I missed out on almost 50 years of content.
We have our own things. It's okay.
Yes. Well, you and I both share a love of musical theater.
Yes.
Which
I'm a recovering performer. Yeah.
Right. Most would consider pretty nerdy in its own right, but not this world. So I'm excited because you chose something no one else has chosen anything to read. Wait, I have a quote in my head. You made my girlfriend read, Chandler. Right? Tom Selleck.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you made me read and tell the world what you chose and why, please.
I chose. So I'll do a quick little into my mind. I was like, I wanted something sort of mainstream or at least pretty well known. Like I was like, Batman is my favorite, but so much to choose from. I was gonna pick the original Crow comic book and the original movie. But then I was like, oh, she hates violence. And I don't want to put her through that. I do not want to put her through that. Even though my little brother for 30 years thought I was the Crow in the Crow movie. Now that's a real story, and it's a brief. So we were 20 years apart. He grew up in the Philippines, and I guess I dressed him for the Crow a couple Halloweens in a row, and I guess I wasn't very close to my dad, but I guess I'd give him pictures one day. Either he genuinely thought I was in that movie, my dad, or he just lied to my little brother and told him that I was. So last year when I went to LA, my little brother lives there. We're having dinner. He was like, "Weren't you the Crow in the Crow?" I'm like, "What?" I go, famously, I decided to be dead, but also I'm not. I know. He was like, "My whole life."
Little Timmy thinks you're the Crow. That's what I told him.
Let's let him hold on to that for a while.
Sweet kid.
But I love it. But it is very violent. I knew you wouldn't be into
Thank you. And when slight tangent, when we did this 15 years ago, and you assigned me some comic books, they were quite violent.
Yeah,
and
I didn't
quite
know that.
sexy and racy. So I really appreciated the more clean cut thing you chose this time. Carry on.
Yeah. So this was. So I was thinking of also being Asian American, I'm very passionate and nerdy about that and promoting fellow Asian Americans, fellow Asians. So I was like, let me find something I think I want either by, for, about Asians, Asian Americans. So I immediately thought of my friend, the award-winning celebrated cartoonist Gene Luen Yang, and he has this comic book that won, a graphic novel that won this whole award, all the awards called American Born Chinese, and Disney even did a one-season series about it, which was great. But I thought that was more of a deep cut. So I was like, what else? And my friend suggested Superman Smashes the Klan, which is the book we're going to talk about today. So it's Gene Luen Yang wrote it. He's also an artist, but in this particular book, he decided to just write it, and artist by Gurihiru. Now, Gurihiru is not a single person. It's two people. It's two women, Japanese women, Chifuyu Sasaki and Naoko Kawano. And I think Chifuyu does pencils and inks, and Naoki does the colors on it. So
Wow.
they're a pretty famous team of. They obviously born and raised, still live in Japan, and wanted to get into the manga world, and then weren't really finding work there, so they came over, to the West, and now they work in Western comics all the time and are very well known.
So cool. And you said Gene, the writer's a friend of yours?
Yeah, I know. I've known him for a long time.
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to call him up and say, let's go have lunch, because when we live in different cities. But what I see, I've known him for years. I've interviewed him several times on the podcast, and he's just the sweetest guy, one of the smartest. He was a teacher for many, many years in California.
Mm-hmm.
He has some great autobio comics out there. I definitely recommend American Born Chinese. That's the one that won all the awards, and
Yeah.
was on not just like comic book awards. It won like national book awards and things like that. So it's he's a pretty incredible writer. But yeah, so I figured this one was a good idea because it sort of combined. It had a mainstream character, Superman, but also had this great story.
Absolutely.
So I thought
with
that
real
was
history, which I loved.
Yeah, it's starring by Asian Americans and about Asians. Yeah, so.
And I'm just going to say it right off the top. I really loved it. I really genuinely loved it. I found it moving and exciting and well done. And I have a real boner for historical fiction. And because this used
great.
real history with...
I love to have been in history class with you. But like, wow,
Yeah.
Mandy, they're excited about the Crimean War. Great.
No,
Nice.
That's the one turnoff is the Crimean War.
Oh, I understand.
This really is the story. Just for anyone who's going, wait, the Klan, literally the Klan. I just want to say, yes, it is literally, they couldn't call it the Ku Klux Klan. I read all the stuff in the back about the history and how this came to be. This
The
is
radio show,
based
yeah.
on, a long-running radio show in 1946. And they didn't want to get sued by calling it the Ku Klux Klan. So it's the Klan of the Fiery Cross. They invented a sister organization, if you will.
But clearly the Klan, yes.
Oh, very much so. Purple robes with pointy hats instead of white. But so, yeah, the story is that a Chinese family moves into a neighborhood that is not Chinatown. And
in California, yeah.
In California. And do we know the year, or is it supposed to be
It's
left?
definitely around the 40s, I'd say.
Back then in the 40s.
Yeah.
And
because I think it's because the obviously, as you said, the radio show was wildly popular. It was called The Adventures of Superman radio show. It was wildly popular, listened to by millions. And it was like a 16-point story, like 10-minute episodes. So that was around the same time. So yeah.
Yeah, this family moves in and starts to face immediate racism, and the Klan does a burning cross party on their lawn, and Superman intercedes and saves the day. Meanwhile, Superman is grappling with his own history and he's figuring out he's not human, and I have some questions, but
he's an
that's
immigrant.
the basic
Yes,
plot
exactly. Yeah.
of Superman Smashes the Klan. So there's tons of relevance. I felt like my overall observation when I closed it was I really thought superheroes and comic books were supposed to be escapist, light, fun entities. But here, they were really commenting on real issues and real heartache.
Yeah.
And I found that really moving.
Yeah, there's definitely more comics like that, many out there over the years now. But you still have the ones where you're just like, pow, biff, pow, action-packed ones that are all, like maybe some of the ones I sent you 15 years ago. And those are great. I still read those too. But I found doing the podcast has introduced me to this whole world. Granted, this isn't really an independent comic. It was published by DC Comics, who does Superman and Batman comics. But I've fallen in love with the world of small press and indie comics, where a lot of them are autobio, personal stories about life. And this has felt like that, even though it had a supernatural superhero character in it.
It was very grounded, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, I think Gene, because like the original story obviously was these. I don't know if you went back and listened to any of the radio show.
I did.
It's really fun because it's like actually went back and listened to each episode's maybe 8 to 10 minutes. And like Kellogg's Pep is the advertiser at the beginning and the end, so that's half the show. Kellogg's Pep, and it's like it was well known. It's discontinued maybe because it advertised on the box, known for its slightly laxatives.
Oh, hello! It's the Olean of
bonus,
cereals.
Exactly. Yeah. But like had the 40s type voice actors. Hey, say when you're that, and so it's kind of fun. But Gene just took that story and he added so much more to it, filled it out, added characters, added nuance, added all sorts of great stuff to it, and made this fantastic story.
Let's just, if we can, just go through it with my questions and observations. And if you have any questions for me, Jimmy,
sure.
Occasionally,
I get that top. It's lovely.
Oh, Thank you. Target, I'm sure.
Cool. Looks great.
It opens with Superman fighting a bad guy named Atom Man, who I'm going to say it is Nazi Cookie Monster.
Yeah, Atom Man. Yeah, Atom Man.
Atom Man. Yes. And he speaks like, "Oh, Superman, get me mad now." And I was like, "Oh, it's like a Nazi Cookie Monster."
Yeah.
The thing, that he cleans up that mess, so we think, but he is affected by not kryptonite, right? It's green. What is it?
It's kind of kryptonite. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like a form of kryptonite, I believe. Let me text Gene to make sure. But it's like, if my understanding, because it's famously like, even if you're barely familiar with Superman, I think most people know that kryptonite. And it's because it's in pop culture. Right. There's songs about it. There's, people say, "Oh, he's my kryptonite," whatever like that.
A pocket full of it.
Exactly. There you go. And that's why I feel so weak around you. And so I'm like, that explains it all. But yeah, it's like it's the one thing. Well, there's a few things. There's the one main thing that can really harm and possibly even kill Superman is these chunks of rock from his exploded planet, that he escaped as a baby, are radioactive to him and can kill him and definitely weaken him. So I definitely think it's a form of kryptonite. Yeah.
Okay. He defeats this guy, but it leaves him very weak. And people are a little worried about him. They say, "Are you not feeling well? You should go home." And Lois Lane offers to bring him soup. Now, we're going to take a brief tangent. My podcast should be sponsored by soup. I've discussed soup in 2 previous episodes.
Excellent.
Soup is the food of nerds.
Yeah, that's why I picked it. That's amazing. Don't forget the story. I was like, soup's mentioned. We got to do this.
It's a soupy story. I was very happy. I had a dwarf soup orgy in King's Quest, and then
I've
Cosmic
had those at conventions as well.
Yeah. So
nice.
Now, this was soup bribery, is what this one will forever be referred to as.
Okay, nice.
So future guests, if you could make sure there is soup included, I would be grateful. He's struggling with the idea that he's not human, and he starts to become what I called like a green alien bug creature.
He starts to hallucinate in a sense, yeah.
Is that now part of the lore that other people have to follow? Like if I jump in and I want to write a Superman story?
No.
Okay.
So this is something Gene came up with, where him struggling with his own identity, where he was suddenly not just feeling alien, realizing he's an actual alien from another planet. So from what I understood, is like, people always view the little green man, as a Martian, as an alien, and the people looking different. So they still looked humanoid, but they had like little antenna and they were green. So to me, that was his brain just going like, is this what I really am? You know what I mean? And like just seeing like, am I really that different? But I may not look like what I'm seeing, but I feel like it. At least that's my interpretation. So then there were hallucinations, and I don't know if they were from,
But he was hallucinating and remembering his parents in Smallville,
his adoptive parents in Smallville, right? Not his.
And then he was
parents. Yeah, don't correct that.
So those were hallucinations, were the Krypton parents.
Yeah,
Marlon Brando. Wasn't Marlon Brando the original Krypton dad?
Yeah, he was in the first movie. For sure.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But So I guess my question is, but you're saying you don't have to honor that if you're going to write Superman. I don't have to acknowledge those things. I can say we know he came from Krypton, but I don't have to honor the green alien thing it's okay.
Because the origin, I won't go too much into it. It's that they are humanoid looking, that they look like that. And, but also what I've learned from many, many 19 years of podcasting is that interviewing writers and artists, like, the editors give you, in a sense, like you may already know, they'll give you, okay, we want you to write Superman. Here's a bunch of comics to read. Here's guidelines to follow. You can't suddenly make him a bear, unless it fits in the story and he turns back, like that, something like that. So,
right.
So you can't, some stuff sticks, but not everything sticks. And because of the fact that these were hallucinations and not real, it was obviously okay. And like that. And also, this is a tale outside of like main continuity. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
yeah. So, because when I had Brian Bradley on the podcast, and he is a writer for a Star Trek series, and he was saying, oh, you have to honor everything that's established. And they have that couple, I forget their names, that keep track of absolutely everything. So you can't say, oh, he had a son. It's like, nope, we've established he never had a son. You can't add that. So that's crazy pressure.
Which is very certain things, I'm sure, certain things, but the comics are like constantly being rebooted and origins are constantly being retold. And like within that series, like Star Trek is saying, if Star Trek suddenly, but look what happened when Star Trek got rebooted in the movies, Spock and Uhura are making out. So very different from the original series, right?
Spoiler alert.
So they didn't have to follow those rules from the original series. You know what I mean? Because those are rebooted. So, but I understand exactly what he's saying. If it's within continuity of a certain storyline or element or time period, yes, it probably has to stay within, like, oh, you can't do that because we haven't established that. But also there's ways to write around it. I'm sure he could tell you, like, if something popped up, an editor was like, let's make him have a son. They're like, okay, I guess we'll figure that out, and like, the writing so they'll do it, So there's a lot of comic stories outside of continuity. So many,
It's incredible, the appetite. There's no end in sight. There's no, the people want to move on. They want something different. They want more of what's familiar and nostalgic, but also being retold in brand new ways.
Well, that's the thing. As a kid, I remember the first sort of multiverse type story. So I was Marvel. I was a DC kid. So I was very Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, like that. And DC started this summer crossover every year with the Justice League of America and the Justice Society of America. And they had established, because in the 40s, the Justice Society of America were the original heroes. And then when they sort of rebooted things in the 70s or 60s, there were different versions of these same characters. So they decided the original ones, the JSA, were on a different Earth in another parallel universe called Earth 2, So every summer there'd be this little two comic crossover where JLA would meet JSA through some weird portal they could go through and hang out. You'd see two Supermans hanging out. Yeah, well, super Tinder, but but you'd see the Green Lanterns had different costumes. Like, and that, to me, that was amazing. I'm like, these are the heroes I love, but they look different and they act different. That's so cool. And so and now you see, obviously, Marvel's, gone crazy with the multiverse. There's different versions of everything. So that's been around a while. And it's kind of fun to watch these different versions.
Right. But in my world, Grease 2, and then it died.
For sure.
Grease 1, Grease 2, and no more. So I guess because it empowers people to feel like a superhero, it just people just want more and more, which I love.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So the lead family is the Lee family.
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated that he named this kid Tommy Lee.
Mm-hmm.
That really brings to mind. He wrote this in 2019. That brings to mind a very different image.
You know what? I never thought of asking him about that. Now I will. Thank you for bringing that up. You're like, did he grow up to be a drummer?
Make a note and get me that answer, Jimmy, and I will.
I am going to ask him that. That's great.
Tell the listeners. So I was every time I saw it.
I never even thought about that.
Oh God!
I mean, listen, we all love some crew, but it just didn't cross my mind. That's very funny. I love that.
Tommy Lee is the kid, and he goes to play baseball, and they call him terrible names that I won't say out loud. And the family is facing such awful, awful racism. it's so amplified. There's nothing hidden or subtle or nuanced about any of this because it's a superhero story. So instead of, Mad Cat stroking his white cat and being behind a screen, it's right there in your face. And these people, all blondes, by the way, all the bad guys are blondes. I don't know
Aryan,
what
yes.
you're trying to say.
Well,
Some
we've known each other a long
blondes
time.
are not racist. But
for
it's,
non-blondes,
but
maybe they are.
but it's all so black and white, and I think that appeals to me. I'm not trying to figure anything out reading this. You know what I'm saying? I'm just on the ride. I gasped when he looked in the mirror and he was a green alien. I actually physically gasped. It's all so bold, bright colors in my face, and I like that.
Well, that's something. A couple of things. I'll start with the art, which is essential. The colors. That's something Gurihiru is known for. It's like, they obviously studied manga, so they have a very heavy manga influence. But also, I don't know if you're familiar with Fleischer Studios. Fleischer Studios was an animated studios in the 40s. They had the Superman cartoon, but they're also famous for Betty Boop. Also famous, which I'm sure you know. So they're also famous for Popeye. So they're
Betty
very
Boop,
unique.
favorite of our friend Carrie Garbus. Second shout out. She pleases me every time I shout out her name. So
I know, right? Yep. And so that had a very animated style to it. But I think it really worked in such a sort of serious book and serious subject because it is sort of considered a middle grade, middle school level and higher. So I think it really would help, younger people sort of like, not like it's not drawn too realistically, because that might become too serious of a tone. As for what you said about like the black and white, being racist stuff, there was really only one kid in the story that was really picking on making fun of him. But what also happened, something I identified with, was Tommy would make fun of his own race.
Yes.
And he would call his family, like, I can't remember what they called his family, like dumplings or something like that. Or and he would allow that humor to happen. That's something I did for years, where I would make these little Asian jokes about myself around people, and people probably might have thought it genuinely funny. Other people probably laughed uncomfortably until I realized, I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm giving carte blanche to my friends to not just laugh about it, but also maybe they might accidentally do that on their own when I'm not there.
Right.
So I made a concerted effort. I have to stop doing that.
It's a beat 'em to the punch mentality. If I call it out, yes. I'm allowed to say it, and that. But we are shooting ourselves in the foot when we do those things, and we all do it. We're all self-deprecating, but doing it about race or cultural background is might be. I can just picture somebody saying a racial slur and going, "Oh, my buddy Jimmy says it. It's okay."
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
He's Asian American. He says it.
Yeah,
so,
my Asian friend, he can, and I'm like, oh, you have an Asian friend? Great, no problem. But yeah, it's like, but it is a slippery slope because, again, like you said, we all do it, and I probably on occasion will make one little small one here and there, but I definitely am more aware of like the type of one I'll make,
Right.
And so but what I love though was the little sister character. She called him out on it.
Yes.
And she was like, "What are you doing?"
In between,
but that's not cool.
Constantly puking.
Yeah, she had a queasy stomach. Poor girl.
Lan Shin has a very queasy stomach.
Yeah. And very good. Remember Lan Shin? Yeah.
And that's her Chinese name, but her American name is Roberta for some reason. They don't seem related at all, but I'll accept it.
Well, I always find it. Yeah.
What is her age? I thought she was 8 in the beginning, and then she's getting it on with Jimmy Olsen, not getting it on, but flirting with Jimmy Olsen. And I thought, oh, she's not
They're all
a young
pretty
girl.
young. Because Jimmy Olsen, as we usually think of Jimmy Olsen was like probably late teens nowadays in the comics, early 20s. But he's a cover reporter. I think I would say Jimmy's probably 16, 15. And it's not clear. And Tommy's probably close to his age. She's probably 12, something like that. But yeah, over 15. But I'm not exactly sure. Again, another question. But I'll say, send me questions outside of Gene, and I'll have an answer when he has time.
What access?
When he has time. Yeah. But she was really smart too, and she was really like aware of things. I feel more so like her brother was too worried about fitting in, and acclimating to around accommodating those around him.
Compromising.
And, exactly.
Yeah.
Just something a lot of people of mixed race or just full like Asian, black, everything. feel they have to do. And growing up, I grew up in the South. There's a lot of Filipinos down there where I grew up, but there was definitely a lot of racism down there too, and I definitely dealt with some. So yeah, I get the idea. You want to like low profile. I don't want to make any waves. I want to fit in. So
we're going to take what I call a technical break. I have a technical question for you.
Okay.
How do you know which order to read the text bubbles in? And I'm not doing this to try to sound like a dumb blonde. I often was reading them left to right, and then I felt they would move to straight up and down, like within a frame.
I think it depends on just the panel. And like it is like in the Western world where we live, it is left to right and then like moves down. But in like manga, you famously start from the back, you go backwards and you read that way.
Okay.
But this is not manga.
Right.
So this is, so you were reading it correctly. That may have been like a lettering thing. I don't know. I didn't find that. Maybe because I'm used to reading comics all the time.
Yeah, I've often found somebody talking and I was like, wait, they're answering a question that I didn't read. I gotta, it was just, I found it. Yeah.
Okay. No, yeah, no. It just might have been the way that your eyes not trained for that. I don't know. I'm not trying to make it. Just like you don't read them as often as I do.
Nope.
I'm sorry you had that experience. It wasn't for many pages. It's just a few.
No. It was just an occasion. I felt like, wait a minute. I thought I was supposed to go left to right, and now they're up and down. But yes, I'm sure with experience.
When there's a lot of story, sometimes the word balloons are very filled with text. So sometimes they have to be creative in how they put the word balloons. Is my guess. So
yeah.
So you're not a dumb blonde. You're very, very smart. Don't say that. All right.
Thank you.
You've been making very good points.
Well, to start, I said I love historical fiction, and I do. And I think that the thing I like about this is how it is so enmeshed in the real world. And for a newbie like me, it's like that allows me to dip my toes in and feel like I understand what's going on because it's real world. I know what the Klan was. I know a little bit about America's history with racism. I said I like how the superhero is so well integrated in the world. I am less enamored with the alien stuff. With when they would cut there's like hard cuts where in a movie a scene would cut to another world. In the book, this happens a lot, and then he's potentially in outer space with his parents or
his Kryptonian parents,
his Kryptonian parents, trying to figure out why he is an alien, a literal alien, not an illegal alien or immigration alien. And I stopped reading and I thought, have I ever really watched an alien story that I loved? And I remembered the miniseries V from the late 80s.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So
I love that theory.
Good. But it took place in the real world. I think that's where my boundaries are. It's like, if you're integrating into our world, I can understand and go along the ride. Yeah. But if I'm supposed to leave my planet and be out there, I get too overwhelmed with how, I'm just trying to figure out what I like in this world.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. And I think it's okay that it's not necessarily for you. It's all right. This was, I think, was a very important part of the story, obviously, because again, it was him struggling with his identity. And so that's how he would have these hallucinations or these thoughts of like, is this what I still look like? Am I ghastly to people, not just by appearance, but like of who I am and what I can do? Am I scaring people? I'm trying to be helpful and altruistic, but
right.
Who am I? What am I?
Well, young Roberta gets him to see the light. She's the hero of the story, which
she really is.
It's so cool to have Superman not actually be the hero. She's the one who saves the day, I feel. She saves her brother. She gets Superman's help, and then she basically says what you just said to Superman. Like, we all feel like aliens, or we're all wrestling with these things, and you have to own who you are.
So buck up, soldier, get it together. Yeah, she's the best. But I really, they also, he was about only struggling with himself a lot. She helped him discover, because that's the thing in the, when Superman first came out, he couldn't fly. He just ran really fast.
He could
leap tall buildings in a single bound, and they show that in the comic. That's what he does. He can't fly. And then he has these ideas where I think I was floating, and Roberta was basically like, have you tried flying? She's great. He's like, oh, well, I don't know, maybe, then like finds himself, which is so great. I think to have like this little 12-year-old girl be the one that like sort of shows him the way as well.
Yeah, she's a badass. And I cared so deeply about the Lee kids and their ability to make a life for themselves in Metropolis. Oh, wait, Metropolis. So that's where they're living, Metropolis. And then in the baseball game, they're going to play against Gotham City. I get it. I know what that is. And then at one random point, they said, in the Delaware Championships. Are these cities in Delaware?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. That's a good question. I didn't notice that. Yeah. I don't know.
Because it's always supposed to be vague, right? We don't know where Gotham is. It's just a city.
Right. Yeah. Well, like originally, I think, and I read somewhere how true it is, but like Metropolis was always considered the Upper East Side of New York City, and Gotham was the West Side. Because the West Side of New York City, famously for years, was the gritty side of New York, right? I mean, it's cleaned up a lot, obviously, but for years, like Hell's Kitchen, Hell's Kitchen for a reason. It was a dangerous neighborhood. But then the East Side was always kind of the clean, pretty, had the
where
newer
I lived.
things. Exactly. Of course. What a shock. I lived right in the pit of Hell's Kitchen.
Yep.
But yeah, but it really, I mean, that's honestly like, I think that was their idea of like of each side of New York. Yeah. So maybe it's just in New York. I
never heard.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, can I pitch you? I've always had an idea for a parody commercial for Clorox.
All right. Yeah. I mean, you are a commercial voiceover actress, so let's hear it.
Right. So the camera starts on one person in the Klan with their crisp white sheets and their hood, and it starts panning along the crowd, all the people in their white sheets. And then there's one pink one, and it just says Clorox to keep your whites white. Right? Right?
Awful, but great.
I've always wanted to make that commercial.
Oh my God. That is terrible, but it's great. Oh my God.
Somebody's wife is in trouble when he gets home.
Oh no. That's right. Oh no.
The tone of this is very superhero-y. They have lots of superhero tropes that are, one of the famous ones that I love, but it makes me roll my eyes, is that when they eventually get to the grand wizard that we haven't really met yet, he's running the operations of this Klan of the Fiery Cross.
Rich guy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rich guy, yeah.
And he gets the local, Matt Riggs, who's just a local racist asshole. And he's like, you messed up, Matt Riggs. You were supposed to take care of business and you didn't do it. And I'm mad at you, but let me explain all of my evil doings before I kill you. Right?
Right.
And so it's always that trope.
But what I liked about that part, it's also the radio show, is that the rich guy was like, wait, you actually believe this stuff I'm talking to you about? Like this bullshit about like, being anti everything and white power? He's like, I'm just doing it for the money, which still isn't great because you're still promoting hate. But like, he was upset that one of his minions actually believed it. And Matt was, of course, upset, like, what, you don't believe it? You don't believe in this hate? So I thought that was a really interesting take. And also maybe kind of true in some places. Who knows?
God, I found the educational section in the back so interesting that the Klan had to rebrand so many times. And at one point, they were just trying to be a social group, and they would throw family-friendly events like picnics and such to bring in new members, which makes sense. You can't start with violence and hate. You start with, hey, you seem disenfranchised. You just moved to town. You need some friends. And then we have barbecues.
We're off. Casserole. Come over. Yeah, come on.
You sneak the hatred and the racism and the violence in so the frog doesn't know he's in the boiling water.
That's right. So what's interesting about that, because the radio show did it too, the story goes that this guy named Stetson Kennedy, who's actually from my hometown in Jacksonville, Florida, Stetson is very proud. I'm like, all right, we had like a very altruistic, anti-racist guy from my hometown. That makes me feel a little better. He infiltrated the Klan and many other hateful groups like that for years. And this, according to him, he approached the Superman producers. I'm not sure how true that is, but he definitely consulted on it. and gave them the idea of making this radio show. But because of that, he had all these inner workings of the Klan and these code words and these this and that. And so those were put into the radio plan. Of course, Gene took some of those and used them in the story, and also added his own growing up, as an Asian American, Taiwanese American in America, dealing with his own racism, which he talks about in the afterward as well. So a lot of that might be true. Maybe the heads of the Klan were like just rich people, just bored and like trying to make money. Who knows? So maybe it's a real thing. But yeah,
it got me fired up. And this depiction of all this hate. And you said only Chuck Riggs is mean to them, but that's not true. The other kids are using slurs and.
Oh yeah, you're right. I mean, he was sort of the main one. Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he was definitely the Buddy Hinton of the group.
But what was interesting too, about Gurihiru's art was that they didn't draw the bad guys with like twirly mustaches and like they look like people. Like you didn't. If you ran down the street, they're like, "Oh, that's my neighbor. Matt's a cool kid. His uncle's great. He throws the barbecues that for some reason a lot. And it's like, so that's why I thought it made a great sort of it sort of made you almost at times feel more comfortable with them at first. Like, oh, they seem normal. Why would they be this way? It wasn't just immediately like you said. It wasn't immediately like, oh, I'm rubbing my cat. I'm evil. Like there was some sort of thought put into it of like, no, these are human beings that could be your neighbor that you wouldn't expect in a million years were this hateful and this evil. So I thought that was really great.
Which I mentioned this rebranding that the Klan had to do, and I highlighted in my book because I'm such a nerd.
Nice. Wait, I'm sorry. You wrote in the book. Oh my God!
In the history part. Bye, Jimmy.
Okay, if I see
Talk to you later. Now that Jimmy's gone. No, it said the Klan's original revival had been inspired by a movie, Birth of a Nation, about men in white robes. Then in its next revival would be stilted by a radio show about a man in a red cape. Because you said millions of people listened, it actually affected the Klan.
Absolutely. Yep. So Superman did fight the Klan in real life.
Yeah. It's thrilling the effect this had on society. Yeah. Some believe that Superman's radio defeat of the Klan of the Fiery Cross led to the real life Klan's public image downfall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They didn't have far to fall, but.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But boy soups.
A personal question, if I may.
No.
How expensive is a comic book habit? They go quick. This was not a comic book. This is a graphic novel, but.
Oh, okay. So let me give a real quick about that, if I may. So they're all comic books. It's like the main category. Originally, a graphic novel was an original story that was just a longer comic book, but they gave it the name graphic novel because it was longer. And then Hollywood, like, that sounds cool. The comic books just use that word. And then so this was actually first a miniseries, 3 issues. And then it was collected into what they call a trade paperback. But those are even now called graphic novels. That's your nerdy history of the names of.
No, that's great to know. And you had told me that earlier.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of price, a comic book is cheaper, right? It's 30 pages versus a graphic novel.
Right. They've gotten pricier over the years, obviously. Even digital ones are at the same price, which doesn't make sense to me, but okay. Basically, I think the basic thing for 26 to 30 page, what we call floppy single issues, they are, I think, $3.99 now. Most of this is standard price, which is pretty high up there for a comic book, because, back in my day, it'd be a quarter for them, and 75 cents for $1. So if you collect, I don't collect like I used to. I used to get 10 to 20 titles a week.
At the height of your collection, how many did you have?
I sold it about 10 years ago. I think I had 50, what they call long boxes you keep comics in, and then maybe half that many short boxes. And so that was probably 15 to 20,000, I think.
Comic books.
I sold.
Short box was my nickname in high school. Go on.
Yeah, I remember that. And for other reasons too. And I don't know. But But yeah, but it's like, yeah, so it was, and back then they were probably $1.50, whatever, and then when I went to New York, it's like I had to get a storage unit because I had so many long
Yeah,
boxes
of
just
course.
grew on tour. When I was acting, the first thing I do would look up local comic shops so I can get because they come out every Wednesday, so they go Wednesday to pick up the comics. Now I've cut back a lot, and I've gone pretty digital just because I still live in New York and we don't have a lot of space here.
So another
but yeah,
question, how do you know when something's coming out? I wrote, are there websites that you subscribe to so you're getting advanced knowledge, like, ooh, August, this next issue is coming out?
Well, like let's say a movie schedule or TV schedule, those schedules are out there on multiple websites, right? Like if you want,
Right, but there's so much less content.
True. Well, I mean, nowadays streaming and so much, but yeah.
Yeah, true.
But most comic book shops will have their own little page of the weekly comics that come out and have them listed. So I just go to Midtown Comics in New York and their website, and I look at the weekly comics. There are probably sites out there that are just international that list them all. There's probably comic websites that go out this week, and out next week. But it is like anything; it's scheduled ahead of time, so you know when something's coming out. Maybe in a month, or 2 months. And so yeah, there's plenty of places to look to find them. I try your local comic shop. You can certainly go to Midtown Comics. Not a sponsor. And all sorts of places. And they'll probably have this week's comics, and they do come out every Wednesday. So
No, I'm sponsored by Clorox now.
Oh, that's right. And soup. Soup for soups.
In talking about what the deeper meaning is and the message of Superman, and that he really was up there to defeat racism and evil and bullies and bigots, do you think kids of members of the Klan are reading comic books about superheroes and it's going over their head? Or do you think they don't read this stuff because they're like, don't beat up my dad. My dad goes to Klan meetings. Do you know what I'm saying? Do they know it's about them?
They sort of address it in the comic, right? In a sense where Matt Riggs looks at Superman and goes, you are the Ubermensch. You are what we want to be. Why are you defending these immigrants and these, he calls them racist names. And so they kind of say, so does that thing kind of go over their head? Because I think Gene wrote that in there on purpose to make look, they don't even get it. Because because you're raised that way. You're raised like, okay, hate everybody except people like us. So to them, that's normal. Doesn't make it right, obviously. And even as they grow up, they're around, and some of them may learn, like, wait a minute, they're not so bad. And people are like, oh yeah, they're the worst, because that's what I grew up learning. So they may still read it and interpret it. I see all the time. There's groups where they'll interpret something just like, wow, you did not get that at all. In any sort of, not just nerdy stuff, but in film and TV, we see that, like, that person did not get that. So I think it's a little bit of both. Yeah, they're reading it and be like, well, this is crap, whatever. Or they're just like, oh, this is Superman's my guy, he, whatever. And this is how he really is, he's supposed to be, or Batman's this way. And so I think it's a little bit of everything. Yeah.
I guess
sadly.
It's like when you have the assembly at school about bullying, most of the bullies don't know that they're bullies.
Oh, no.
Right? They think they're kidding.
Yeah.
They think they're playing pranks. They think they're just hanging out with their friends, and so they're not aware when they're hearing this can lead to depression and suicide. They're not thinking, oh, good, that's what I do and that's what I want. They're thinking, oh, that's sad, but I'm just teasing that girl. I'm not really a bully. So I think there's such a level of denial.
Oh, there's plenty of it. Yeah. And of course, us growing up being that we're both, like 80, there was none of that discussion when we were kids in school, because it was nothing. There was no mental health discussions at all. It was just like, stop picking on him, like that. And and you go home crying anyway. And it's like, and they do it again the next day, so.
Yes, I did. I loved tormenting kids who I deemed less than.
And I'm still dealing with it. So
yeah.
This is very hard for me to do. It's a big step for me. So.
Dear listeners, I was terribly bullied as a kid. I'm just kidding. So our discussion...
You became a bully as an adult, but anyway.
Our discussion of Superman Smashes the Klan is coming to an end. And then I'm going to...
No.
I know, unless you have a point that I didn't get to.
No, I just want to also harken again on the back matter essays. Or I know sometimes people buy a comic like, oh, there's actual words I got to read too. Read the back matter of the essay that Gene does. He relates his own personal experiences. with racism and then what Superman means to him at the end. And it really helps sort of tie in with the actual story of the comic too. So I'd still recommend that for sure.
It totally enriches the experience and makes it more meaningful.
It really does.
Yeah. Okay, so I would like to stop down and tell everybody my business before we tell them yours. Make Me a Nerd is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Pete Wright. Yay, Pete! Music is Wonderstruck by Jane and the Boy. If you want to reach me, you can do so on Instagram at Mandy_Kaplan_Clavens. Those are both Ks. Please, 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 if you're listening on Apple Podcast, leave a 5-star review and let me know what you think. I love to hear from you that way, and it helps me grow this podcast. And also, you can become a member, which is so much fun. Go to makemeanerd.com, hit the join button. You'll get bonus content and more access to me on things like Discord, which I'm still having trouble figuring out. But I'll get there. I want to hear from everybody. I want this to be a journey we all take together. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, Jimmy Aquino, podcaster extraordinaire, journalist. Tell everybody what you've been up to, where they can find you, and how they can reach you if you would like.
I just want to say I'm glad your name is Mandy and not like Carissa, because those initials would not be great. But but just to be clear, I'm not a journalist. I am a podcaster. I never went to school for journalism. I'm just new media. That's what they call it. Because I no disrespect to my actual journalist friends, they studied.
Yes.
But yeah, I do a podcast called Comic News Insider. We were one of the first podcasts out there back in April 2005. We started covering comic books. One of the first that covered comic books, that is. And we expanded. We covered TV, film, all sorts of stuff, music, theater, anything with a nerdy slant to it. So, and even sometimes I'll go off on tangents that aren't, nerdy slants, or recommend things I personally like. But yeah, you can find that at comicnewsinsider.com. I'm all over the socials. I'm basically just at Jimmy Aquino. That's JIMMYAQUINO, mostly Instagram. That other X Twitter thing kind of exists, but I don't really use it. There's a new one for comic folks that sort of latched onto called Blue Sky, which is sort of like old Twitter. And it's kind of nice.
I heard about that from Audrey Kearns last week.
There you go. See,
Real Authority. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then she clearly knows. She clearly is an authority there. Yeah, she knows. That one for sure. And Para is a new one for actual artists out there, because all the AI stealing art is all other podcasts we can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically personally, you mostly find me on probably Instagram and Blue Sky. If you want, you can go to my onlyfans.com/Jimmy Aquino crying to K-pop. Not many followers. Mandy's the only subscriber right now, but that's okay. But it's fun. It's good. It's not as sad as it sounds. Yeah.
Well,
that's where I am.
Jimmy, thank you so much. You were one of the very first people I thought of when I had this idea to become a nerd and explore all of this stuff. I knew I was going to get you to do this. So thank you.
Yeah, weirdly not the first, but on your podcast, maybe that's fine. It's fine. I'm not mad at all. It's okay.
Politics.
Politics,
my friend. Well, my next episode is very exciting. Yes. My precious. I am doing Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
It is a big undertaking, and please join me next week to see how it went.
Just a book, or just the movies?
Movies.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a life and jobs and other things and limited time. So
books will take you a year, yeah?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate this. The show is great. I'm very proud of you. It's very entertaining. It's also even though I may be familiar with a lot of the stuff that's talking, some of it I'm not, or some of the stuff I didn't know about, from that certain, insider perspective. So
that's
it's fantastic. It's for everybody. So please tune in, everybody, and check it out and subscribe and leave a great review too.
Thank you, my friend. All right. Until next week. I want to sing the song because I know it's coming.
Excellent, yeah.
Got me wonderstruck.
Excellent. That's my favorite song.